Have you been interested in training with kettlebells but don't know where to start? Good, because in today's video, I'm gonna show you how a couple of these can replace an entire gym. I'm gonna show you what you need to get started, the basic movements and how to master them, how to avoid common mistakes that get people injured, the weights to start with, what to avoid, what to expect, and finally, how to progress. So what you need to start is a cast iron kettlebell, a little bit of space, a mat if you want one, about a square meter by a square meter, and this can be accomplished anywhere. Fire hall, bedroom, garage, doesn't matter, that's it. No excuses, let's get started. All right, you guys, movement number one is gonna be the goblet squat. The reason that this is important to start with is I wanna clearly establish the difference between a squat and a hinge, because the next movement, one that I see done incorrectly all the time, is because people try to squat the weight. So when it comes to a goblet squat, keep in mind for every movement today, I'm using a medium heavy kettlebell for me. At the end of the video, we're gonna talk about what weights you should choose, what to expect, and a whole bunch of other fun stuff. So when it comes to the goblet squat, we wanna go feet just wider than shoulder width. You can slightly turn your feet out a little bit. This might help you sink into a deep squat. And if you have a problem getting into a deep squat, I'm gonna tell you why in a second and show you one way to overcome that. So we're going to clean the weight up into the front rack position, keep our chest nice and tall as we sit the hips back. Avoiding caving in, keeping that upper back nice and contracted, keeping that chest nice and proud. The one biggest differentiating factor with a squat versus a hinge, and I'll show you that in a second. In a squat, my knee angle is gonna change as I go up and down. With a hinge, my knee angle is gonna stay the same, but all the movement is gonna come about my hips. So I'll show you that from the side view so you can understand what I'm talking about. Feet just wider than shoulder width, toes slightly pointed out, clean up into that front rack, chest nice and proud, sit our hips back, knee angle is obviously gonna change. If you struggle to get into a deep squat, no matter how hard you try, you feel that urge to fall forward. A lot of people think that that might be a restriction in the hips, which could be a contributing factor, but more often than not, it's actually your ankles. If your ankles don't have the ability to dorsiflect, meaning they're able to get the tip of your toes closer to your shin, that's gonna bottom out. That range of motion is gonna be limited, and then we're gonna cave forward. That's why when we talk about functional fitness, especially for first responders, we're trying to reintegrate or re-access these native ranges of motion, because when the joint does what it needs to do, we're just gonna feel better with less pain. But sometimes with your shoe, I'm wearing Vivo Barefoots. It's a zero drop shoe, meaning it's completely flat. If you have something that elevates your heel slightly, some training shoes might have that, this might help. If not, what you can do is take a plate, a 2x4, and you can put that underneath your heels. It's going to act like a bit of a crutch because, again, we're not regaining that range of motion, we're just using something to re-access it, but this is gonna allow you to sink into a nice deep squat, even if you have limited ankle mobility. Moving on to the hinge, and this is one of the foundational movements, you guys, because with kettlebell training, so much of the force is produced from the hips. A lot of these smaller muscles can't produce the same amount of contractile force as big prime movers, and that's why it's so essential that we move these patterns. And again, like I already alluded to, I'm gonna show you the difference between a squat and a hinge. So when it comes to the kettlebell swing, we are going to first go shoulder width apart. We're gonna imagine that we're snapping a football. I also want you to picture that you're trying to bend the horn of the kettlebell. The thing that this is gonna do is engage your lats. It's gonna pull your shoulders together and keep that back nice and flat and that chest proud. Once we hike it, we're going to receive that kettlebell, drive with the hips. You should feel a really good contraction in your glutes. Almost imagine that there's a nut between your cheeks. I know, hilarious, but it's a good cue that we're trying to crush. We're not doing a front raise. If you feel your shoulders working, you are doing this exercise incorrectly. This is not a shoulder workout. The arms are strictly acting as a pendulum, and all the force is coming about the hips, and this is what that's gonna look like. Feet shoulder apart. We're gonna go down. We're going to bend. See what happens? Back is rounded. When I cue to bend, everything goes nice and flat. You should be able, with a hinge, to be able to have a stick that goes from your butt to your head. You can use a dowel or something as a cue to teach this movement, which is what I've done in the past. We're gonna receive that and then drive. So this is what it looks like in real time. Hike, hips, 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 hips. My hands aren't doing everything. It is all the hips, the shoulders and arms are strictly acting as a pendulum. So I have a lot of people say, Coach Mitch, I'm feeling this in my low back. And again, that's the biggest distinguishing factor, you guys. Notice with that movement, knee angle stays the same. All the movement is coming about the hips. You know you're doing it incorrectly when your knee angle starts to change. I'll grab it with a lower weight because I don't feel like hurting myself. I'll see people do this. They're squatting it up, squatting it up, squatting it up, and almost doing an upright row. You're working muscles. Is it ideal? Is it efficient? No. So we want to make sure that we're moving as efficiently as possible. And that's why I love this style of training, is because it's going to teach the body, it's going to teach the entire kinetic chain to work cohesively together. All right, you guys, now we're moving up the body into the clean. The reason that we need to establish the movements that we did before is because, again, this movement is going to be dependent on power coming through the hips. It's less about strength and, grinding your way through it, and more about, again, smooth, controlled, and coordinated. So when it comes to the clean, this is one of the movements that I hear a lot of, my wrist hurts, I'm getting bruised, this is really uncomfortable, and let me tell you exactly why. First cue is you want to go thumb to bum. So when we come down, we don't want to be holding this like a dumbbell, and that's where a lot of people run into some issues. So the kettlebell is going to be placed across our palm, and we're going to start thumb to bum. We're not holding it like this, like a barbell doing a deadlift. Thumb is going to go to bum. Next thing we want to be mindful of is you want to keep the kettlebell close to your body. The reason that it's clonking you in the wrist, you're casting it way too far out. The kettlebell's flipping over because of that and the way that you're holding it, and it's smacking you on the wrist. So I'll show you the wrong way to do it, then the right way to do it. So first, we're holding it like a barbell. We're not going thumb to bum. I'm casting too far out, and then it clonks me. If we go to the right way of doing it, we start thumb to bum, quick elbows, and keep the kettlebell nice and close to us. We're not gonna have that issue. So I'll show you from the side. Incorrect, barbell, flipping too far out, ow. Correctly, thumb to bum, quick elbows, keeping it nice and close to the body. No bruising, and you won't need to wear any wrist guard or anything after that. So when we get that bell up, we're now into what is referred as the front rack position, which is gonna move into our next movement, the press. With the press, and no fault of anyone's, I think naturally they've been doing bodybuilder movements their whole life, and they're pressing it like they would do a traditional military press. Again, you're gonna work the muscle, but is it in the most ideal, most stable orientation? Absolutely not, and it's gonna be way more difficult because in bodybuilding, we're isolating that anterior delt, which is what we want for hypertrophy and muscle growth. With kettlebell training, I want to, again, use the body the way that it is designed to move, so the whole system, the whole unit gets strong instead of a single muscle. Because what happens, if we overdevelop that muscle, everything around it is underdeveloped, and that's why you have shoulder issues. So the reason that we gotta learn the clean first is that's how you get it up into that front rack position. So thumb to bum, quick elbows, snap underneath, not casting the kettlebell out too far in front. And again, guys, we're not out here. If you try to press out here, isolating that muscle, really uncomfortable. We wanna be in the front rack position. So what I mean by that, I wanna have a nice straight line from the top of my hand to my elbow. Everything is stacked. I wanna keep a nice strong wrist. I don't want my wrist folding out like this. Again, killing multiple birds with one stone with the kettlebell, working forearm strength, and then we're gonna press, not only using the muscles of the shoulder, but using the chest and triceps to go up overhead. Core is staying braced, opposite side of that core is having to work to stabilize. The whole system is firing. Again, it's beautiful. Receive it, nice and controlled. Press overhead and continue. I'll show you what that looks like the other side. So again, main cues here. We're going from floor to ceiling, thumb to bum, quick snap of the elbows, keeping the kettlebell nice and close to us. Front rack position is going to be straight line from top of hand to elbow, strong wrist, pressing straight up overhead. Just to quickly summarize, we've worked the entire posterior chain with our hinge pattern. We've worked our upper back and shoulders with the clean to press. So now to hit every muscle in the body, what's left is the back. The kettlebell is an amazing thing to row, whether it's single arm row, ballistic row, double hand row. It's a really good way, especially from an unsupported position, to work the back. The reason that unsupported is really nice is because all the musculature of the spine is actually what's doing the stabilization versus a traditional bench row where the bench is providing artificial stability for you. The main key with the row, you guys, we wanna make sure that we're pulling in to our hip. So elbow, we're driving into the hip, and all the momentum, all the power is coming from the cue of driving with the elbow. We're not bringing up towards our shoulder because again, we're only gonna work the musculature of the posterior delt and the bicep, really small muscles. I wanna make sure that I'm accessing the lat and driving into the hip. So simple, single arm row. Feet are gonna be shoulder width apart. We're gonna utilize that hinge pattern to get nice and strong. So slight bend in the knees, nice flat back, and we are gonna drive into that hip. And again, when I don't have any support as I'm pulling, all the muscles in this isometric position are having to work to hold me upright. So in your job in life, when you are unsupported picking things up, we're building up that 360 iron core. We can also go into something that's a little bit more dynamic. Same principles apply, pulling with the elbow, but we'll go into a ballistic row. This is the beauty of kettlebells, you guys, is you can use the same weight, but you can alter the way that you use it to make it more challenging, meaning you can do a lot with a little and minimal time. Progressing on what we did at the beginning with the swing, we're now gonna build on that with a single arm swing. The reason that this is great is because there's a simple flow that we can use to progress into probably the most challenging movement that you will learn as a beginner. So exact same thing applies, all the same cues for the single arm swing, except we're just using one arm. Again, what's gonna happen here, there's gonna be a lot of torque and rotational force being placed on our body, and our core is gonna have to work to prevent that. That's the benefit and the beauty of unilateral training. You're using the same weight, but because of gravity and leverage, it's going to challenge your whole body in unique ways. So feet shoulder width apart, hinging at the hips, engaging that lat, casting out in front of you, and again, your arm is simply acting as a pendulum. There is no shoulder work happening here. On the other side, same thing, core stays braced, all the power is coming from the hips, and we're gonna rock and roll from there. Once you feel comfortable with that, we're gonna show you a simple flow to master the final movement, which is the snatch. On to the big dog, you guys, before we get into that. And again, there's so much opportunity for progression and growth when it comes to kettlebell, but for today's video, we're just touching on the basics. And if I'm being completely honest, if you have yourself a good set of kettlebells and know just these foundational movements that we've done, you will never need a gym again. And I can guarantee you that. I was a bodybuilder, gym rat for many, many years, but I would say I would trade everything that I have in this beautiful gym that I'm so fortunate to possess and have connected to my house for a set of kettlebells and a pair of these guys, because that will cover everything: functional strength, mobility, and cardiovascular capacity. So final movement is going to be the snatch. So building on that single arm swing, the flow that is really gonna help with this is we are going to go swing, we are going to go high pull. So we're gonna drive back with our elbow with the high pull, again, generating most of that force from the hip. And then the third movement, to really emphasize that. And the reason that we're doing a high pull is to keep the kettlebell nice and close to our body. When we finish with the snatch, we're going almost into that high pull, and then we're gonna imagine that we're going to punch into the ceiling. And it's gonna look exactly like this. Swing, high pull punch to the ceiling. Control back down, swing, high pull punch to the ceiling, and there is your snatch. We wanna hold the kettlebell in the same orientation of the clean. It's gonna be nice and across our palm. We're gonna go again, thumb to bum, swing, thumb to bum, high pull. We're gonna push up through the ceiling to finish. And there you have it, you guys. These are the foundational movements. And if you are a beginner to kettlebells, I know it can seem intimidating, but the beauty of these implements is not only are they extremely effective and efficient and good at what they do, but it is a skill. Kettlebell training is an art form, so it's endlessly stimulating because even when you know the movements, it becomes about refining and perfecting those movements. Once you get the basics done, you can move on to more advanced movements. Same thing. They're gonna feel really uncomfortable, awkward, and crude at the beginning, but as we progress, it's gonna become smooth, controlled, and you're gonna see how that dynamic strength, working the whole kinetic chain, getting that fascia moving beautifully is gonna translate into your job and real life.
Now that you guys know the basics, let's talk about common mistakes that get people injured. Number one is going too heavy too soon. Unlike traditional training where we just add more weight, what we have to realize about kettlebell training is we're also challenging movement patterns. We need to make sure we built that foundation before we jack the weight up. After that is too much volume for similar reasons. We're gonna work muscles that maybe haven't been challenged in days, weeks, months, or potentially years. We need to give them adequate time to recover. So if we just stack too much volume on top of that, it's going to be a recipe for disaster. When it comes to what weight to start with, everyone is different. General starting point for males is 16 to 24 kilograms or 35 to 53 pounds, depending on your workout history. For most females, 10 to 16 kg or 22 to 35 pounds is a great start. When in doubt, go lighter and nail the technique first. As we mentioned before, going too heavy too soon is how you get hurt. Now, what to expect. This will be hard at first. Kettlebell training is a skill, and you may pick up some bumps and bruises along the way. You will be sore, back, hips, you name it. This is gonna challenge your body in ways that you haven't experienced before. Soreness is normal, but know the difference between soreness and pain. But once you do master these things, you will start to move better. Kettlebells improve mobility and get your entire fascial system moving. Expect less aches, less pain, increased flexibility and range of motion. Finally, expect to fall in love with them because this train is enjoyable, fun, effective, and endlessly stimulating for the reasons that we just mentioned. Because it is a skill, you're going to get better at it. Just like anything, once you get better at it, it is gonna be way, way more enjoyable. When starting from scratch, here's how you progress. Start with the Goblet Squat and two-handed swing. Own those before you move on. Once your hinge is dialed and your form is clean, add in the clean. From there, the press, the rack work, and eventually the snatch. Follow that progression in order and don't skip the steps. The movements build on each other. Cut corners and you'll feel it. And here's the thing most people miss about kettlebells. Progress doesn't always mean adding weight like we mentioned. That's the beauty of this tool. You can take the exact same bell you started with and increase the technical difficulty of the movement, add range of motion or a layer of complexity, and your body will have no idea it's the same weight. A goblet squat becomes a clean becomes a press becomes a thruster, a two-handed swing becomes a single arm swing, and then becomes a snatch. One set of kettlebells can keep your body guessing for months, if not years. That's not a gimmick, that's smart training. Like I said before, this style of training completely changed my body. If you're interested in learning more, I'll put some free resources below. And as always, train hard, stay safe, own your oath. Peace.